is physical wealth.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy New Year, everybody. Look, the New Year fell on a Monday fun day. Imagine that. It is January 1st of 2024. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? And today I have two special guests, Eric and Nick. Okay. Hi, Lonnie. Thank you for being here. Please stay tuned. Today's show is titled A Conversation. And this is the Adroit Living session of the Erudition Network. And here I like to try to have conversations that's dedicated to contributing to mental health, being physical wealth, and identifying that it is physical wealth. So I want to talk to Eric and Nick today. Hey, love, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you? Glad to be on the show, Tina. I watch and comment all the time, so it's different being on the show. So I'm glad you invited us.
Yes, you watch all the time. And you try to comment all the time. And some stuff you say I cannot say. I cannot say that you just write these comments. So I just expect people to just read it. I see. You couldn't have Eric put your name in the thing there. It just says Eric.
Oh,
yeah. So Eric he's been really good about everything.
Has he?
He has.
I don't know how to put it in there. Do you know how to put it in there?
Put what in there?
Oh, she's talking about the name on the screen.
Oh, no, you don't need that. Like, you just say my name every so often, the audience will follow along. Yeah.
I guess he's the only person here, so I guess they'll figure it out.
I am voice against it. He does not know what you're saying.
Yeah.
He said, Eric, type your name. Just type his name in.
No, that's in the chat. No, they're talking about in the...
Yes, Nick. So, Nick, what do you do? I know Eric from the military for many years, having worked with Eddie, my husband, and having him over to the house and living on Eric all these years. Hey, sis, how you doing? Happy New Year. Stay tuned. So I know Eric from being, that. Hi, Facebook user. What do you do, Nick?
So I'm in the Air Force, and I met Eric through the military, just like y'all's. We were in Dam Neck at Intel School. He was studying radars, and then I was studying all-source analyst in 2018. And then we met up after class one day. His barracks was not too far from my barracks. And then from there, I went to Afghanistan. And then when I came back, this guy messaged me and he said, hey, I would like to hang out again. So being a reservist up in DC, I was right next to the Pentagon. He was living at his mom's place next to Woodbridge, Virginia. We hung out a few times, and then we've been together ever since.
Oh, isn't that sweet? So how many years is that?
5, thereabouts.
Okay. Eric was a bit of a wild child when he was here.
Yeah, we had some good times in Colorado.
Can I tell Eric? So where are you guys now?
Well, California.
Yeah, we're back in. Yeah, we're in California. We're up in. He's up in at Edwards Air Force Base, and so we're up in Lancaster, about an hour north of LA.
But still LA County.
I have some people in California. So my uncle used to be Air Force. He's retired now. He got his PhD while he was still in there. He's the first PhD on my father's side. I'll be the second. And the first female, though. So, are you pursuing further in your education like Eric? In his education?
Oh, well, so I'm working full time at the base. Don't really have much of an opportunity to. Just taking a few classes here and there to try to maintain my professional side. That's it. Nothing significant.
Are you working on your other stuff, too?
Well, just a few classes.
Yeah, he's taking a few classes. He's a professor. So funny thing is, the school I'm going to is the one that he teaches at. He's an instructor there.
Oh,
He teaches economics.
How can you forget that?
Well, because
wow.
Yeah, I didn't pass one of my economics clips that I took, so I blame him for not teaching me all the economics.
You didn't even ask me. You just took the clips, and then you did pass, and I was very proud of you. Oh, and he has a 4.0 GPA.
What?
Hey, you know what it is at studying, Tina. You've been through a lot of schooling as well, so.
Yeah, and I so very much needed conversation because yes, we definitely need to hear this conversation. So, Nick, how long have you been a professor?
2012, but I mean, professor is kind of an upscale title. I'm just an adjunct instructor, so I teach, but I don't do any research. That's what usually professors do, is research.
Research. So the difference is you're not teaching.
Yeah, I'm teaching, not researching. Correct.
Okay. So like this, let's take it different. Let's go in that. How do you find the concept of knowing what to teach, how to teach? Is it easy?
I think when you teach the lower level courses, there's a lot more that you can take between each class because you're repeating it semester after semester. So you can develop your best practices relatively quickly, probably like within the first year or two of actually teaching. And then there's also some guidelines for what you have to teach in the lower level courses. You're not just making up the whole course yourself. There's specific objectives the college wants you to teach. So at that point, it's just a matter of finding what resources are available. Like, what textbooks do you use? There's free open source textbooks that you can use to save some students money that are still high quality. There's online materials such as videos from Marginal Revolution University, which teaches economic concepts, and you can integrate all of that into your class. Probably within a year or two, you have a decent class.
Okay. And who is it that's this curriculum?
So the course objectives come from the college themselves on what you have to teach in the basic courses, the 2000 level courses that I teach. And for me, I mostly teach macroeconomics. So standard inflation, GDP, unemployment, some demand and supply concepts. Then I just follow the textbook that we use. I get to use OpenStax. So I follow the table of contents, and then each week in the 16-week semester is 1 or 2 chapters. Usually I group the chapters together based off of the concepts that they teach. And then that's the primary reading for the students. And then you teach, or you go out and you find those supplementary things like the videos that teach about inflation. So hyperinflation in Zimbabwe that hit in the early 2000s. And that gives students an idea of how to apply economics in the real world.
Okay. So would you say that the curriculum that provided comes from like the principal or somewhere?
It broke up a little bit on the last part. What were you saying about the curriculum coming from someone?
The principal, or is it coming from someone else?
Yeah. So It's driven a lot by the college, and then the instructors can add additional material on top.
So you're not really sure
sure
from like the principal, the chancellor, or someone else?
Principal? Well, I mean, what do you
The
mean? principal?
provost?
Oh, provost. No, it doesn't really come from the provost. Usually it's delegated down to, so the way SPC is structured is you have the president and then the provost, and then you have the deans of the various colleges. So like there's a dean for the College of Math, and then and for me, the dean of the College of Social and Behavioral Science, which encompasses economics and political science and psychology and sociology. And then from there, there's academic and full-time faculty that are in charge of each specific discipline. So like for me, under the dean, there's a full-time economics faculty, and then they give a lot of the curriculum direction to the adjunct instructors, and they help design the basic courses and the objectives.
Okay. You have a good foundational understanding of where this curriculum is derived from. The reason I inquired is because a lot of times, like my viewers, other students, they don't know where this is coming from. Some teachers have no idea where the format, the hierarchy of these things, so that they can understand the concept behind what it is they're teaching, so that teaching varies with their success fluctuate.
Ooh, so that's actually a good point, because I teach the lower level courses. And with the lower level courses, you have a lot of high school students that are dual enrolled in college, and you have a lot of students who have graduated high school that are in college for the first time. So usually the first year, maybe second year students. And to your point, Ms. Phillips, they don't know how the college works. They don't know why they have to take certain courses. They don't know for your bachelor's of arts or your associates of arts why there's so many classes outside of the core major. And what I find myself doing is, after class, I usually stick around for 15-20 minutes, and there's a lot of students that come up with basic questions about college. How do I file an appeal? How do I talk to my advisor? What exceptions to policy or waiver can I do to enroll in this class next semester? Or where can I find more information on this subject that you taught me? Or why am I even learning it, given I'm a nursing major? I'm not studying economics. So I actually do find that a lot that happens.
And you make some very how asking where is available, how to make a and how the just because there's no information that he said. So you're teaching macroeconomics, microeconomics, and economics to Eric State. Good luck.
Well, he already passed the CLEP, so
Eric said, I already passed those courses, Eddie. I'm a genius. I don't know how I'm echoing. I don't know. I don't really know how it's echoing. But Teddy, maybe you turn on your oh, they're echoing.
Oh, you're echoing.
Oh, we're echoing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Teddy, I think that was Tina again. Maybe I'm on your end. I don't know. But you make some, and I would really talk about points because I most recently went to complete my PhD in industrial organizational psychology. I wrote a dissertation proposal that's globally trending, and it's talking about. Eddie said he's trying to fix it. Thank you, because I turned my volume all the way down. But
But
in that
with that
process,
process,
some
some
information
information
that
that
it's
is
possible a lot of people don't want known or don't want anybody to hear about. But you said that people don't really know who to talk to, so they talk to you, and that's not your job. A lot of professors, adjunct instructors, or teachers, period, they become frustrated when people ask them questions like, "Oh, anything that has nothing to do with what they're teaching in the class." And then, even then, they only want you to ask what they told you during the class. How do you feel
you feel
about that
about that
information
information
coming?
coming.
I I agree with you. I think especially with well, two parts. The first is in the adjunct world, we're part time, and going to teaching college isn't our full time job. Usually, there's some other job that those adjunct instructors have. So, first part, they don't have the time to become subject matter experts in the college. It's just they're focused on their field. And then the second thing is because it's a part-time job, they probably, a lot of people don't view it as an investment that will pay off. And that is if they learn more about the college, resources that are available. For example, at SPC, we offer 24-hour tutoring free to all students. And it's through a secondary service, but it's not well advertised. So adjunct instructors probably won't pick it up unless they start clicking through the web pages themselves and learning about SPC resources. So since I've been there for so long, almost 11 years at this point, I picked all of that up, and I just absorb it over time. And then I'm also interested because I know people that go to SPC. I've been to SPC myself. I graduated from SPC before I taught there. So it's like a community that I care about for me. And I think that's the difference that you see in some people versus others. Part-time adjunct instructors, they don't always care because they're not invested. They don't have the time. Full-time professors, they might care because they were working there full-time, but then to your point, sometimes you get the professor that's so ingrained in their ways that they want to focus on one specific avenue, whether it's the research or teaching their particular subject. So yeah, I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where I actually do care.
You
You
make a
know,
good
you
point about investing, being invested in it. Um, a lot of times people, they're just doing it to make a dollar real quick, and they're out as fast as they can, even if they have tenure and become a tenured professor. So do you feel like there's something we can do to make this information that you had to just search out and spend time in before it, surfaced? Do you think we should have some sort of process that would make this information forthcoming, and maybe that would make people feel compelled to be invested?
Ooh, so I I think the easy answer is to say yes. The more complex and nuanced answer is to look at the breadth of the world and realize that there's a lot of information out there, and it's all competing for for our attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to the classic example of how do you prepare a college student or a high school student to be successful in the world? Because there's so much information that they need. Everything from home economics, how to cook, how to iron shirts, how to do laundry, to how to do your taxes, to how to manage a home budget, to actual technical skills. How do you type? How do you use Microsoft Office to format documents and create presentations? How do you research stuff on the internet from credible sources? All of that takes time, and all of that takes attention. And there's just no way that you can teach a person all of that information. So you kind of have to decide what you want to teach them. And I think we do that through multiple levels. As as city councils and state Department of Educations, we decide what curriculum we want to teach our high schools. And then the schools might have certain focus areas that they teach, like magnet schools. Some magnet schools might be focused on arts and humanities, some might be focused on technology. And then within that, you have individual teachers who are in turn focused on something that they care about, a life lesson that they wish they had been taught. So now they teach it to their students. But at the end of the day, like, there's always going to be information that just doesn't get taught to the students because there's not enough time. And I think that's just where we have to accept that you can't fully prepare the student for the world. All you can do is try to teach them what you thought was important, accept the fact that there's definitely going to be things that they aren't taught and they're just going to have to fumble their way through and try to find an answer. And then maybe they're going to fail sometimes, and that's okay. And that's where we come to teaching life lessons, how to handle adversity, how to handle failure. If we can teach people that it's okay to fail, it's okay that things don't go your way, then they'll be fine. They'll accept it. They'll be successful, even if they stumble and fall a few times.
And Eric, as a student, I hope you didn't sleep your way to that A, Mr. Genius. But as a student, do you wish that there was some information that was more forthcoming in the curriculum or just in the banter of the classroom? Eddie said Nick is a great instructor if he got Eric through those classes.
Well, first, I want to put this disclaimer out there. I have not taken any of Nick's classes. So the classes that he teaches, I clipped both of them, both macro and microeconomics. I had to take macro twice, but I passed micro on the first time around. So I didn't actually take his course. Although I wish I had, because I've seen the way he grades his assignments and stuff with his students. He's very lenient, lets people turn in stuff late. All kinds of people come with all kinds of excuses. He does set his threshold a little higher than other instructors as far as the grade. Between 90 and 93, he sets that 93 precedent. But he has so many other lenient policies that it's pretty easy to succeed in his class. To answer your question about like resources and whatnot, as far as SBC, I think the college is great. A lot of colleges nowadays, SBC is kind of unique because it's kind of a community college, but not really. Like Florida they don't deem them community college, they deem them state colleges. But a lot of those colleges now offer 4-year degrees.
Limited areas.
In limited areas, really like high areas that need, education. So for me, like cybersecurity, the SPC offers cybersecurity through a 4-year degree program. So you don't have to do the traditional, transfer to a 4-year institution. And I think a lot of states, not just Florida, a lot of states are starting to implement those type of things. So, which is great because it's a lot more cost effective to go to, a state college than a regular 4-year university. I think USD they charge, USF charges almost double what SPC charges, and you can get the same, quality education. So I think, that's one of those areas where, because I didn't know about that. And so, especially people in my community, our community, don't have the access to the same resources, the same amount of money, parents don't have the money to send you to college. There's other alternatives where you can get a 4-year degree and not pay all that money or not have to take out all the student loans, stuff like that. So I think that needs to be a little more advertised to the general population, because like I said, I didn't even know about that. And so, those are one of the things that I think we as a community, Black people, get more educated and use those opportunities more effectively.
Can I jump in? So I really like how you said that needs to be advertised more. And I think the answer is not the school advertising it to the community. I think it's community leaders who are in that community, who are relatable to that community, advertising it, because that gives these schools credibility, and people are like, oh, it's not just the state that's advertising, it's not just the government telling me that they want to teach me in exchange for money. It's people, local community leaders saying, this is a worthwhile opportunity.
Yeah, you got a good point. Because like Eric said, I didn't know that that was an option. I counsel a lot of people who I'm going to make sure they see this episode. That is a great point. Some 2-year institutions are now offering a 4-year bachelor's degree in the 2-year university status, as opposed to having to go to a full 4-year university status. Globally, they call it university. So uh, only in America, I guess, I think we call it, junior college and college, but globally they call it university. I think that's a term that everybody's familiar with. Eddie said, yeah, that's great because minority communities are often overlooked or uninformed. And that's why I required some of the future solutions to be more forthcoming with this kind of information, because like you two can't even, seem to say, wait, is one particular person that we should be able to look towards to get this information. And that's so accurate. That's why people don't know who to ask, and they feel a little defeated and hopeless when they have to keep asking everybody, and everybody they ask, they don't know, or they discourage them or something like that, and they don't seem to get the answer that they're looking for, so they become discouraged and stop looking for the answer. Eddie said he's trying to say that that Nick tutored Eric, and he gives much credit to you, Nick, because he knows how difficult it can be to tutor Eric. Eddie also said, how many students do you see that already have a self-taught background before entering school for cybersecurity? And is this a brick and mortar school or no?
Yeah, so it's a brick and mortar school. Actually, since I'm in California right now, with him being in stationed over here, I'm taking all the online classes, and so for cyber, that they do offer all online classes for that particular degree. That's not the same for all degrees, but
Like nursing is in person.
yeah, nursing and person stuff like that. Obviously, they can't offer online. They do have a lot of other areas that do offer online, which makes it easier, obviously, for a lot of people, especially for me, who have to travel. Tina, you know how it is. You don't stay anywhere for very long, so I don't know if they had those type of opportunities back in the day when you were going to school, but I can imagine how hard it would be trying to travel around and go into the same brick and mortar school, trying to get that education. So,
Yeah,
and then
that's
with
why I picked the University of Phoenix, because I did lose a lot of time. So I did graduate from the University of Phoenix, and then I went over to, I can't say the name of the school, I'm sorry, but it is there in San Diego. I'm having a bit of a problem with them acknowledging my global works that they have trending since I presented the proposal to them. But it's a lot of schools that are on the top of the list for controversy legally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Eddie mentioned the GI Bill. So actually, Nick had a good point, because I was just going to use the GI Bill for to pay for my schooling. But come to find out, like I said, SPC, since it's a kind of a community college, state college, and they do offer 4-year degrees, I can actually, what I'm doing now is financial aid's actually paying for all my school and then some. So the Pell Grant specifically has been paying for my school, and then so I can use the financial aid. And this is a good plug for anybody, like you were saying, listening. Use your Pell Grants, get your Pell Grants, for those non-military personnel, even military personnel too. Use those Pell Grants, it'll pay for school. And then for like a master's, you can go ahead and kick in your GI Bill, because that's going to be where most of your money is going to be spent anyway, with those really expensive graduate courses. And so last semester, I used the Pell Grant completely, and I actually got back in return over $3,000. And so each semester, as long as I make sure I have a full schedule, just use that Pell Grant, I always end up getting money back. So that's a good plug for anybody listening.
Now, is the Pell Grant for just your undergraduate degree, or because from what I understand, you can only use the Pell Grant for undergraduate?
Yeah, so that's correct. So the Pell Grant is only for undergraduate. Now, the caveat with that is you can get multiple, what I'm exploring now, you can get multiple associate's degrees, but until you get that, whenever you get your bachelor's degree, then the Pell Grant, you're no longer eligible for that. And so kind of I want to say a loophole, but what's baked into the system, what you can do is get multiple degrees or certifications before you get your bachelor's. And so, because right now, if I went and straight got my bachelor's, I would be ineligible for the rest of my Pell Grant, which I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have Pell Grant money left over that I could have used for other certifications or other associate's degrees.
So to clarify what he's saying, he could do an associate's in cyber and then a bachelor's in cyber and then stop there, but he calculated out he'd still have unused money for his Pell Grant. So what he did is he looked at his bigger career, asked what kinds of certifications could he get, identified he could do a CompTIA Network Plus certification, Security Plus certification, A Plus certification. So he's built into his academic schedule a use for that additional Pell Grant money by doing an associate's in networking, an associate's in IT, and then going to his bachelor's in cybersecurity. So that way, when he actually graduates, he A, uses all of his Pell Grant, and then B, makes his resume a lot more attractive because he has more educational experience in a broader IT field rather than just cybersecurity.
Okay, that's great. So as long as he does not use advance to the bachelor's degree, he can continue to use his Pell Grant. How many associate's degrees can you get in just a Pell Grant? But before you answer that, Tony Briscoe is an expert in cybersecurity and online learning programs. So he's offering some information here. He's also ex-military. So that's some great information. I know Eric is familiar with conversating with Tony Briscoe in regards to learning more about cybersecurity. And Eddie says that that's right. Yes, you can get those Pell funds to get more out of it. So I'm gonna let you answer the question before we go into any more comments.
Yeah, so right now, the way I calculate, it may be different depending on what degree plans that other people want to go. The way I've calculated now, I can get 2 associate's degrees and then my bachelor's. So they give you a certain percentage of the Pell Grant, 600%. And then as long as you don't get your bachelor's, you can use 100% of that 600%. And so, that's what I'm going to use. So right now, like I can get 2 associates in addition to my bachelor's just with the Pell Grant, not even touching my GI. And have money left over. Like I said, $3,000 back. So it's a good plug. I encourage people to use the system and to the best of their ability. I know the percentage amount goes up and down each year depending on the president and whatnot. So right now it's a really good opportunity to use it and take advantage of that. So like I said, especially the more minority groups, to get that education.
Yeah, Tony said he's super passionate, having being an expert in the field, and I have to agree. He is very passionate and dedicated to the field from what I've seen. So you said again, it keeps coming up with the forthcoming of the information, and it's like because the information is not forthcoming. For example, we watch anything. We watch TikTok, we watch mainstream media, social media, and there's advertisements on everything, everywhere. But the information is still not forthcoming for these subjects, these conversations like education, and where we can, find these loopholes to get these degrees, because these degrees are very much necessary, because you can't even mop the floors without a degree and then a license in sanitation to even mop the floors. So the information is still not forthcoming. Tony said, working on being an expert, getting my nerd on this year. So he's correcting me that he's not an expert, but the titles that we possess are only recognized via institutions that we pay money into, as well as time and experience. However, it does not necessarily mean that you are or are not an expert. It just means what you're recognized in. But you guys want to address that?
Oh yeah. So I think part of it part of it, I can address part of it, is it comes down to safety in that we want to make sure at least some professions are well educated and have the experience that they need to do their job successfully. So think about nurses. You want to make sure they can insert an IV correctly so they don't collapse a vein, or doctors can identify conditions and prescribe the appropriate medications. And then even within doctors, they have to have certain residencies in order to practice in certain areas. So that makes sense, and that's reasonable. People might disagree about what that level of education or experience is needed to practice safely, and that's one issue. The other issue is that there's some areas where it may not be a safety issue. It may be more about trying to capture the market. And think about it this way. If you're a hairstylist, you can be self-taught from home and be a great hairstylist. And then when you go to get a job, you may want a barrier that prevents other people from entering that market and taking up some of your business and your clientele. So you lobby the state for a license, and you have to be a licensed hairstylist in order to practice. And then slowly over time, the requirements for that licensing build from 100 hours to 500 hours to 1,000 hours plus formal education. So that's certainly true. That can happen in some cases. What is the right answer? I don't know. I mean, there's probably some people that capture the market and advocate that because they're trying to protect their own jobs. Real estate comes to mind, to be a real estate agent. I think it's a difficult question to answer broadly, and you really have to pick a field and then have a deep dive discussion in that field. Like, should medical school be 4 years of education plus a postgraduate education plus a 4 to 6 year residency on top of that? Or should we be creating reducing the educational and experience requirements in order to produce enough doctors to reduce the healthcare shortage that we have? I think that's, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I think the reason why that information isn't really out there is because, there's this pull and tug between the private and the public sector. Just as far as states offering 4-year degrees, I'm sure 4-year colleges lobby against that because, hey, you're taking, ultimately education is also a business. They make money off of providing education, these 4-year institutions, especially our elite schools. You look at Harvard, stuff like that. So they're obviously going to be fighting with the state to say, hey, we don't want you to offer 4-year degrees because that's going to dip into our profits. And so there's always going to be that pull and tug to lobby against that type of stuff. So people keep having to pay these extraordinary amounts of money just to get an education, which in my opinion should be free to everybody. But, there's that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And Tony Briscoe was telling us how the state of Illinois, because each state differs, will pay 120 credit hours for military members to go to school before they have to touch their military benefits. And he said he's going to term this year the year of education. And I think that, a lot of the mental health problems we've encountered last year, and especially during the pandemic, were it shed a lot of light on the fact that a lot of people's mental well-being is teetering on their education and their lack thereof, which is narrowing the way. I know Nick has a really great way of putting it, and I love that, where he said that some people are using those obstacles to protect their own jobs, because I've heard so many people in various communities and fields complain about how there's new stipulations that make it extremely difficult for them to get the type of income that they need in order to maintain a good lifestyle or expected lifestyle. I've seen some TikTok episodes where a lot of people are saying they're a nurse making six figures and their spouse is also making a decent income, maybe five figures, and they're still having a great deal of difficulties calling it what do you call it, a job that allows them to live um, the means of the current cost of living. I don't know if it's because the cost of living is going up, or if it's if it's really the jobs, or if it's the schooling. But a lot of people are saying that the narrowing of the way by the petitions of them saying, okay, well, make it more difficult for somebody else to get in this field and take our our business, our money away from us. I think everybody is, equally invested in it. And just like you have, people in the same area that's selling the same product, it's about who you want to go to. It is not so much how much money is going to cost you to go, because real expenses are not necessarily monetary, more so than it is you know, this is who I like to support. This is who I want to support. This is the group of people I want to see advance, as opposed to having a basic, okay, this is the law and this is why you cannot just see because you like this person opposed to this one.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tina. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff, that goes into that, and then, just providing the education and that those tools, for people. Because, like I said, I didn't know Nick taught me all this stuff. I didn't know anything about it till you shared all that information with me. So, it's good to share that and spread it around our community, so people can succeed in whatever they want to do. Do you have anything else to add?
I was just reading Eddie's comments in the chat that there's a lot of gatekeepers to fight in the professions, and then we shouldn't see companies weaponizing profits. And we talk about weaponizing profits. So healthcare, artificial intelligence in healthcare is an interesting debate, because on the one hand, we are developing artificial intelligence to replace expensive labor of doctors and nurses. Like, for example, use AIs to look at x-rays to identify defects in bones that may be relatively difficult to find, bone tumors, hairline fractures, and normally we would pay a radiologist to do it. So there's good that comes out of the technology, being able to detect things that we couldn't detect before. But then there's also costs. Like, what about all of those people, radiologists, that go out of business because AI has replaced them? It's a difficult debate, Eddie, and we see companies, to your point, trying to find the lowest cost solution. And once they identify AI is good enough, they send those radiologists out the door, and they don't care about what happens to them. And that's not what should happen. We should help people, companies should help people develop new skills to replace when they are replaced.
That's a good point. And let me get to this comment. I want to try to make sure we get the comments. Hi, how you doing? I appreciate you coming. Yes, it is an open panel, and we appreciate you tuning in. A lot of these comments are general in education, but it is applicable to different communities. So yes, I hope you are finding this helpful. Okay, so one of the things that I would like to clarify for the viewers is you know, they try to make sure that information is protected. And in this protected information, some in the last 10 years have coined the phrase as knowledge hiding. I know that has a bit of a negative connotation notation to it, but and I don't really necessarily agree with it being knowledge hiding as opposed to the information just is not forthcoming for reasons like you said, Nick. I wish you'd have been on a couple of a while ago, so you could have said that. It's not so much that the information is knowledge hiding, so much as there's so much information, it's difficult to tell who's interested and who's invested or will invest in having the information. You want to comment on that, Nick?
So I think that you're right that most of the time, Miss Phillips, that it's not knowledge hiding, but there is knowledge hiding that does go on. And what I'll say by that is like the Affordable Health Care Act that President Obama instituted. Part of it is that was directed towards low-income communities that don't necessarily have access to information channels to be able to know, oh, there's health plans that you can get. So one of the components of the affordable health care is to set aside government money to advertise to these low-income communities. What ended up happening is when you saw that the administration changed from President Obama to President Trump, certain parts of the government budget were slashed, such as advertising the affordable healthcare plan options to low-income communities, and there was knowledge hiding that went on. That's definitely possible, and that happens. To the other point that we were talking about, it can be difficult to know when it's active, malicious knowledge hiding versus just people have so much knowledge that they want, that they need to know, but they don't know how to find it. And me as an instructor, I see these young students, I don't know what their backgrounds are. I can try to get to know them over the course of the semester, but that would be very superficial. And I'll only have maybe a few hours over the entire course of the semester getting to know each student. So I don't know what they do and don't know. I have to rely on the fact that they're asking me questions, and then I can provide knowledge in response to those questions. And then I can take trends over time. Point number 3, I can take trends over time and identify overall what students that are first or second year college students might ask and what I can proactively push to them so that way they don't have to ask. So yeah, that would be my comment.
I just love how you broke that down with the identifying what part is knowledge hiding and what part is, like you said before, just so much information. Eric?
Yeah, I was gonna say another good example is I did a brief stunt with TurboTax, and that's another good example where I help people navigate through the TurboTax program, and if they're having issues, a lot of people will call in, basic tax questions I could answer, and a lot of people will call in that couldn't really afford to pay for the program, and so a lot of it they didn't know, and this isn't I want to break away from the education stuff, but just one example of kind of knowledge hiding. And me myself, I was kind of complicit in it. I didn't want to be, I had to keep my job, but I was kind of complicit in the knowledge hiding, knowing that there's free tax services out there. Going to, and actually Nick taught me this too. If you go to IRS, they have free tax services if you make less than a certain threshold, 70,000, which a lot of people make less than that. And so you can actually go to the IRS website, and they have different programs they partner with to do your taxes for free. And it's just like the TurboTax program. Now, I couldn't tell people that on the phone because I'm representing the TurboTax company. But, it was kind of disheartening to hear people call in like, hey, I can't afford, what can you do for me? I can't afford this. And it's just like, I want to tell them you can do this for free. Because I know, well, not all the case, but if you call in and you can't afford to buy the program, it might be it might be assumed, it's not necessarily every case, but maybe you don't make the threshold, or that you comply with the threshold that you could do your taxes for free. But unfortunately, I can't say that. And so that goes one of those things where I think stuff like that is kind of knowledge hiding. You know, companies don't want us to know about the different benefits and stuff that that are offered to us and offered to a lot of people that apply. So go ahead.
So I think his point integrates what you're trying to say, Tina, perfectly, in that there's the two aspects are you have community leaders that are trying to get this message out that there's free tax services that y'all can use, but that's just one of the many messages that they want to get out to their communities. And then you have companies that are actively knowledge hiding something that they themselves know because there's a profit incentive to it. And that's where you have people who are working cogs inside the system,
Who are complicit.
who may be complicit, but they're important because they can steer people to these free resources, and they can do it subtly in a way that undermines the system and still gives somebody what they need.
And that's a good point. I did navigate people to, I'm like, hey, you should really check out irs.gov. You should really check it out. Right? I can't say what I want to say, but I'm like, if you check that out, you'll learn stuff that you did not know about. And so those are those hidden kind of messages.
Well, say it now.
Yeah, you're right. I can say it now. Unfortunately, I don't have people actively calling me about taxes, but it's those little nuggets that can add up to support,
But say it now. What was some of it that you're saying that was like general questions that were repetitive that you wish you could have said? What can you find in there?
Oh, just the like the adjusted gross income. That was my major question that people would call in about. Hey, where do I find my adjusted gross income? But that wasn't really a secret, a nugget. The biggest secret is that, hey, if you can't afford it, I did have certain things I could do to lower the price on it. But one of the nuggets, I couldn't just outright say, hey, you can do this for free if you go to X, right? And I'm working for TurboTax, right? That would be very frowned upon. you telling our customers to go somewhere else to do something for free. So it's kind of one of those things where now, of course, now I can say that I'm not working for the company anymore. But those are little nuggets that add up that will really benefit people who need those kind of things to help them navigate through life.
Oh, that's a good job, E.
Yeah, that is a good job. Both of you guys are doing really great. And I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's very informative. And I know the viewers are going to be well invested in this conversation. I posed to the people before Christmas, I said, if you show a financial interest, then we will have more shows that aid in physical wealth, not just mental health being physical wealth, but actual physical wealth. And some people we didn't reach the $50,000 mark, which is what I was aiming for, because this show costs money. It's not free. And I don't do Patreon, but I do, Teddy, once you get that banner up here, I show where we can financially show interest in this show, in this program, so we can have people like you, Nick and Eric, to come onto the show and make these points of how the information that we need can be found. And like Eddie said, there's a lot of people on the social media that's now trying to get this information out there, because people don't know what one source to go to and turn to, let alone if that source is credible or trusted. I try to keep things really simple here, Nick, but I love how you said that you do try to direct students to credible sources, so they can trust the information.
I guess on that credible sources, one of the challenges that college students have and high school students is that they're so new to the world. They don't understand what is and isn't credible. Part of that, they can rely on their existing network to say, hey, here's a new source. Here's what I think it is or isn't credible. And then the other thing is they have to use trial and error and cross collaboration So like, for example, trial and error. If you're not sure whether something's credible or not, then just take a piece of the information and see if other people are saying, hey, yeah, that makes sense, or no, it's not. And then trial and error, you just take what you know and use it. And then if it turns out a year later that it's wrong, change your views. And it's okay to change your views. And that goes back to the mental health aspect that you were mentioning earlier in the show, Miss Phillips, which is mental health and the physical world are highly related. If you are okay changing and updating your views, if you are okay with accepting that you'll sometimes fail and not succeed, you're going to be much more successful in the world than if you're always trying to be successful and you're always trying to be happy. It's okay to be sad sometimes.
Now, Nick, you keep slipping in that Miss Phillips. We're going to have to fight. Just Tina.
Oh, okay. Will do.
You try to be formal for the vine. Is that what it is? You try to be formal for the vine?
Oh, well, I mean, I think that you are, as a show host, are due your courtesy and respect. So whatever you want me to call you, Tina, that works with me. Happy to call you.
Yeah. And until we get really big, perhaps, you know. I don't know, but Eddie thinks he's commenting too much, so he's going to stop talking. But there's no such thing as too many comments. But yes, this is a very much needed conversation that we really need to have more often, because it is coming to, I don't know if you've noticed, Nick, but I have been talking about it on the show, so viewers are aware. A lot of people are in school and they're showing that their mental health is affecting everybody in a negative way, because our safety is in jeopardy, even from the kindergartens all the way up to PhDs. We have 2 PhDs who have show that, you know, their mental health is a problem for everybody, and it's not just in one community. So I think that, you know, schools is supposed to be a safe place where these people can get the mental stability that they need, instead of being more agitated because information is not forthcoming, and those people that should recognize that, you know, these people are off balance are not necessarily reporting that they're off balance.
So, and I think the 2 PhDs that you're talking about James Holm in Colorado, and then the gentleman who stabbed the 3 or 4 people up in northern United States. I think that's fair. And part of the issue that we have as individuals is when we see something that looks a little bit off, we don't necessarily want to report it because we feel like that might be calling the person out. Hey, you're a little weird. I think I should go tell my boss because something, you know, is off with you, because that could impact their career, and they haven't shown any aggressiveness towards us. The downside, so that can be a good thing, because if we don't report it, there's a bunch of cases where if we did report it, that person's career could be impacted and nothing bad may have ever happened. But then the downside is there's cases where we don't report it, and then all of a sudden that person escalates, and we could have done an early intervention, but we didn't. The challenge for us is we don't know which of those 2 paths that person will follow. Most people they're a little bit weird, and if we don't report it, the world's going to be fine. But we don't really know how to tell apart the people who, if we don't report it, will cause some issues later on. So the answer might be we just have to accept some level of risk. And it's not fun, like when that risk is affecting us or family members, but we're not omnipotent. We don't know, or excuse me, omnipresent. We don't know everything there is to know. There's just some things that we aren't going to know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I love all your answers, Nick. I am so sorry that my time is up. My hour has been reached. I really appreciate you guys being here. Eddie said we don't teach empirical thinking in our schools. I think we should say in the public school system because that's free. But some other schools do teach that more condition trying to teach them to think empirically. But he says we must change this approach and encourage thinking out of the box. Circular thinking provides no growth. See the issue, solve the problem. But I do agree with what you're saying, Nick. It is difficult to identify when it's really going to be a problem as opposed to it just being a small matter that we should overlook because, oh, it's just people being people. And you don't really want to call people out and make the problem as opposed to there not really being a problem in the first place. So I really love this conversation. You have contributed greatly to the perspective. I like to use these shows to look at things from a different perspective, because if we're always looking at just the one perspective, our opinion, then we cannot see the broader picture because we're linear in our thinking, whereas we should be more broad and open-minded with everything. And you guys are definitely open-minded. So I want to make sure I say thank you for being on, and I would love to see you guys come back again. This happens every Monday as far as I can get an opportunity on here throughout my research. And okay, Eddie says good show. He says good show. Thank you, Nick and Eric. I give Eric grief, but he is still my little brother. So I really appreciate you guys being on, and you are welcome to always be in the comments, and make sure that you come back and stay in the comments, because if I see you in the comments and I'm talking about a topic that I know you're an expert in, I'm going to throw you a link. I'm going to throw you a link. And Eric has been asking to be on the show for quite some time now. I know he likes to talk about controversial topics. However, it's a lot of things that, I cannot say openly, especially in recording. But we always talk behind closed doors about some really, hot topics. But some of those ideas and concepts that we discuss, Eric, are the general public isn't ready for. So we do have to be fairly careful in our status to make sure that we are presenting our opinions in the appropriate way and at the appropriate time. So don't get me twisted. I'm going to get at you. So don't get it twisted. I got you. But right now, as I continue to battle with getting this one message out there, and making sure that the diversity in the voices is well understood, as opposed to it being a derogatory manner and focused only on derogatory concepts. Once we get past that and continuing to build the partnerships that can make sure that that's the way this goes, then I'll be able to go that route with you. But right now I'm under close observation to make sure that I am well understood, that you already know, Eric, I'm not biased. I am not negative. And in my opinion, everything should be one love, because that is what we were taught. We were all taught to do when Jesus was here. He did some of everything with some of everybody, even the church, where he was sitting there reproaching the church. He even, went there and dealt with some of them. But he dealt with everybody. He was not exclusive to any one person or group of people or mind, sets. So I just want to make sure that those people who are lurking and watching me and seeing if I should be approved or not are well understood, that they understand. And he says I'm a bit more controversial approach. Yes, you can be. because Eddie is not in pursuit of a higher degree and need the people to say things like, oh yeah, Nick, you're well aware the professors and even the adjunct instructors are the ones that can say yay or nay that you have or have not obtained sufficient level of understanding and education in order to pass the program. So you have you know what I'm talking about, right, Nick?
Yes. And like, for example, when I did my master's degree, I had an oral exam that I had to pass before I got my degree. And there's definitely, you have to make sure that you don't make people too angry. So I understand.
Unfortunately, I seem to have made some people angry. But that doesn't exempt the fact that, you know, God allowed me to bring a message and shed new light on a very old topic, to include a couple of centuries old topics that involve school. So I'm going to call you guys again later and have you back on the show, Nick and Eric. Eddie says I have 35 years experience in multiple fields, and he says I get it though. Yeah, because we can definitely be in our own way in progressing if we are found to be too controversial, because, you know, we need to promote more of the one love concept as opposed to being controversial for entertainment purposes. And when we start to be controversial for entertainment purposes, we need to make sure everybody knows it and keep saying, look, this is just for entertainment. We just go joke around. But today I wanted to make sure we had a much needed conversation so we can set the precedent to understand these things before we get into, you know, continuing on to be, you know, what Eddie say, I love, but I don't permit foolery. Yeah, because it's a lot of tomfoolery that goes on with that controversial entertainment. But I really appreciate the viewers. I don't want to keep you guys much longer without starting a whole new episode. But thank you. I love this conversation. I love you guys' answers, and I appreciate your time. And Teddy wants to take us out.
Thanks for letting.
Stay on. Don't go anywhere. Well, you right. Let me give you guys play. Go ahead.
Oh, we just want to say we appreciate being on the show, and we'll definitely, whenever you need us, any show, any other show, we'll definitely come on and let people know, spread the word. As you know, I watch you guys' the show all the time, so I learned a lot. So we appreciate being a part of that.
Yeah.
And I love when Nick has come on. Are we still? No, I think we're still live, Eddie. I love how Nick came on and gave his perspective from his position, because this is the first time Nick has ever come on. This is the second time. We saw you a little bit, but you didn't really say much. But this is the first time that you really come on and actually gave your perspective, and I really appreciate it, because it is a perspective that is much needed to be heard, because a lot of the topics are speaking against exactly what you spoke so eloquently on in a positive way.
Thank you, Tina.
Okay, so wait, my cousin here must tune in next time. Nice. Yes, cousin Maureen Mo Forte, she has a show, and if you haven't seen it, you gotta see her. Mo Talk is cousin Mo's show, and that is a great show. She talks about a variety of different things, and if you don't know who she is, follow Mo. She is on my Facebook friends list, so you can definitely see her. I have a number of people who are big influencers, and you can see some of them from my Facebook page. But if you tune in on the show and put your information in there, I would definitely broadcast it and show everyone. You're welcome, cuz. So yeah, definitely plug your shows in here. We have a couple uh, I'm going to start this year getting more into that and putting the light on these people, because some of these people you really need to hear, and I don't fool with people that you don't need to hear. And while I do fool with Eric, and we do fool around a lot, and a lot of these people who are very professional, they still have a comedic side to them, and they'll still fool around and do some tomfoolery. But we'll keep it in perspective so you'll understand the difference between guided perspective and information you need to know. Okay. And remember, please make sure you donate so we can keep these shows going and make sure that you are getting your money's worth. So donate, donate, donate. And then you can understand more things that'll bring about physical wealth, not just mental health being physical wealth, but actually physical wealth. We'll see you next Monday. And ring the bell, because you never know when I'm going to come back on. Eric, Nick, y'all stick around. I'll be right back after we end the show. Teddy, take us out.